Hey everyone, Mr. MC here. This is the guide for Sardegna A with the McLaren F1. Let's get this started. For this lap guide, we'll be using the McLaren F1 to take advantage of its insane high speed down this main street that we're on right now. We're on racing soft tires and the brake balance for this car is at 0 for the time trial. Your first braking point is before you reach the 100 meter mark, before you reach the first orange marker on the right. Brake hard for a short while and turn in when the curb ends. Nice and easy off the brakes and get on the throttle as soon as you can. This part can easily be taken flat out, but then you want to bring yourself towards the right and brake right as you pass the 50 meter board. Brake hard for a short moment, slowly ease off of the brakes. Try not to clip too much of the grass. Try to bring yourself towards the left side of the track. Quick burst of braking as you pass the yellow sign on the left. Then ease off the brakes. Nice and easy on the throttle to maintain control of the car. Bring yourself towards the right side of the track and you can brake just after you pass the 50 meter board, just after you pass the PlayStation sign that is behind the 50 meter board. So this is exactly where I start to brake. Brake hard for a short moment, slowly ease off of the brakes, bring yourself really close to the wall, and you need to be patient when you start to accelerate out of that turn so you don't hit the wall. This part you can take it flat out. On time trial, you can be on 5th gear, but if you're in the race and you're under the slipstream, you can go onto 6th gear. Then brake before you reach the 100 meter board. Brake hard for a while, and in this case I bring myself down to 1st gear for extra rotation, but you can stay on 2nd gear. Just be nice and careful on the throttle so the car doesn't start to act out too much, and then you can start to fully accelerate. This part can be taken flat out along with this right turn. Lift off of the throttle if needed, and then quick burst of braking before the curb on the right ends. Nice and easy off of the brakes so the car doesn't act out too much. Get really close to the wall and then slowly accelerate. For the final braking point, brake just before you reach the 100 meter board. Brake hard for a short while, and just like the last hairpin we went through, you can go down to 1st gear for extra rotation, but if you don't need it, you can just stay on 2nd gear. Be nice and careful on the throttle so the car doesn't act out. Bring yourself towards the left, and you can turn in when you start to pass this sign that is on the left, and this turn can easily be taken flat out. But that is all for the lap guide. We'll finish up this lap and then we'll take a look at the strategies. For this daily race, we are doing 10 laps at Sardegna A with the Group 3 cars. Fuel is a ×2, so fuel is not a problem. But the tire wear is a ×8, which is going to be a bit of a big problem, especially if you're on cars with poor tire wear, like the Lamborghini Huracan and the McLaren F1. And well, I'll talk a bit more about the McLaren, but let me just go through the general race details. So we're doing 10 laps here at Sardegna A, and we have both the racing soft and medium tires available for us to use, and both tires are also required to be used. So if you're starting on the racing soft tires, you need to pit to change on over to the racing medium tires and vice versa. You want to use both tire compounds in this race so you don't get a 1-minute penalty that will be applied at the end of the race. And because the pit loss is pretty long, it's about 20 seconds, you're only going to want to go with a 1 stop. How long you want to be on the racing soft tires will depend on your car and your driving style. So your racing soft tires can last as little as 4 laps or as long as 6 laps. So for example, if you're doing 5 laps on the racing soft tires, that means that you'll be doing the next 5 laps on the racing medium tires. So the pit stop strategy is pretty straightforward. You're just going in for a 1 stop, and you just want to find out how long your racing soft tires can last. And if you're starting towards the back, you can also start on the racing medium tires so you can get the slower tire compounds out of the way and save the faster tire compound for the second half of the race. You might also see a couple people towards the front also start on the racing medium tires, and that has to do with the slipstream, especially with how useful it'll be for keeping up with those on the soft tires as you go down the main straight. But do be careful if you're starting on the racing medium tires, because especially if you're in the front, you might be surrounded by people on the racing soft tires, so you might get swarmed really fast. And also the racing medium tires, when you start the race, they're going to be a little cold, so you might want to be a little more careful and not push the car too much early on in the race. And also the pit stop entry is just after the final right turn. Just bring yourself a bit more towards the right and you're in the pit stop. And this is how long the pit stop animation is going to take. And once again, you lose 20 seconds. That is your pit loss. But anyways, so let's talk about cars, because this one's a bit of a weird one. So this is looking like it's one of those races where you qualify on the time trial with one car and you do the race in the other. Is the McLaren F1 a bad car for this race? No, it's just that there are better cars for this race, and that mostly has to do with the tire wear. So once the tire wear starts to show up, it's going to get pretty hard to be able to make a move on anyone, because you're fighting with your own car now. Unless if you're in the Lamborghini Huracan, you're just fighting with your own car the whole race. And yeah, the McLaren F1, it is going to be a beast down the straights, especially if it's under the slipstream. But when the tire wear kicks in, it's going to become a sitting duck, especially as you go through the more technical sections of this track. And that is going to open up for more cars to have some potential here. And I think one of the more viable cars for this race is the Chevrolet Corvette. That car is also pretty easy to use. It has really good pace, and it's not too crazy like the Huracan. It's not too bad on the tire wear as well. So if you're looking for a pretty easy car to use, definitely take a look at the Corvette. Also, just a quick note, for the Corvette, you do need to shift early. You would need to shift over the gear number, and that's because after that the car loses power, so you don't want to rev it out. But as we're going down the main straight, let's go ahead and talk about places to overtake and the penalty serving zone. There's only one penalty serving zone, and it's right here just before the pit entry area. The main straight is also the best place to get overtake done with the use of slipstream. If you're in a McLaren F1, you're going to have an easy time overtaking people. Just make sure you brake nice and early so you don't end up in the gravel. Then from here, it's going to be pretty difficult to get overtake done, especially as the track narrows down. This left turn that takes you to the right turn, it's going to be very situational. Normally, you don't want to go for an overtake unless if an opportunity presents itself, and it's going to be the same case for this left turn. This left turn, once again, pretty situational, but normally you don't go for an overtake there because you have this back straight. Take advantage of the slipstream if you have one, and that can give you an opportunity to get side to side with the car that you're trying to overtake. Try to go for the inside line, and then try to take the position as you approach this braking point. And look at me mess this up. Anyways, then this part right here, it's pretty technical as well. Try to stay in a single file line, especially for the chicane that is coming up right now. And then for the final turn, this one is also pretty situational. If it's down to the wire, it's the final lap. You can try to go for an overtake, but other than that, unless if the car in front of you messes up, then I don't suggest going for overtake, especially if you have a number of laps left, because you have this main straight, which means you can take advantage of the slipstream and then try to pass them nice and safe. And that is pretty much it for the guide. Once again, this is a one-stop race where you want to use both the racing soft and medium tires so you don't get the 1 minute penalty after the race ends. The McLaren F1 is your go-to car for the time trial, but for the race, that's going to open up for a lot of cars to have some potential here, especially the Corvette. So if you want a car recommendation for the race, try the Corvette. But anyways, that is pretty much it from me. I'm going to go ahead and sign off now. So this is Mr. CA wishing you a good race and a good week, and I'll see you in the next video.